Hey everybody! So today we're going to make a apples to apples set of playing cards for the parody. I don't know yet what we'll call it, but I want you guys to be the ones to make it, and then of course like create all the cards and everything. So I'm going to make an example card and show you how to make like the logo type thing on the back, and then how I would create the flip side of the card. So we're going to start with a document. We're going to create new. We're going to create a document with 2.5 by 3.5 inches. And we're going to hit the artboards up to actually 2 for now. Then we'll go from there. And we're going to hit create. Here we go. So since we hit 2 artboards, we'll have these 2 white spaces right here. I'm going to focus on the first one. I have copied a picture of what a typical apples to apples card looks like. So it's basically this red. It's a red card with the apples to apples logo on it. So the first thing we're actually going to do is create the logo, because the red box is obviously super easy to create. So it has this gradiented circle behind it, and then it just has these fun words saying apples to apples. So I think I'm going to call mine staffers to students. You guys can call it whatever you want. I haven't really, that's just the kind of thing I came up with. So the first thing we're going to do, the text is slightly curved. So we'll actually just worry about that later. First we're going to type staffers to students. And then we're going to find a fun font. If you can't find a font that you like, go to dafont.com and find a font. I would recommend something in like the cartoon section. That would probably get you some good results. For now I'm going to do duality and make that a lot bigger. And I'm going to align it to the center. I'm actually going to Control A to select all and align all of them to the center, just for fun. I'm going to make this duality too. All your recent fonts are going to be right at the top. There we go. Wait, where'd it go? There we go. And this size is 28, so I'm going to make this 28. Awesome. Okay, now I'm going to look really quick at our reference. So it's slightly curved, these 2 lines of text, and the text kind of overlaps each other and it's kind of lopsided, which I think is kind of cute. Except for the word two. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make it bigger so I can see it better. And I'm actually going to hit Object, Expand. What Expand does is it turns the font into shapes. So it's not editable text anymore, it's actually a shape that we can take and mess with. It'll convert it all into a single group of objects. So if you click on one of them, it'll click on all of them. But if you right click and say ungroup, then you can click on the letters individually. So I'm going to go ahead and group up this word 2. So I'm going to hit Control G just to group it up really quick. And I'm actually just going to take it over here because I'm not going to use it for a while. Okay, so then I'm going to start arranging the letters the way I wanted to. So I'm going to make this significantly bigger, and I'm going to rotate it by clicking just outside of the square. where it has that little double-edged curvy arrow. And then I'm going to start like jumbling them together a little bit, making the sizes a little more random, curving them a little bit. Going to move this towards the center a little bit, and then I'm actually going to change the color, something else, so I can kind of see what I'm dealing with here. Give it a stroke color. I actually like the way that's turning out. It's good. In the word stroke, I'm going to, okay, so here's what I'm seeing. Right here, you see this really sharp point right here in the F. I want to curve that off. So that has to do with the way corners meet. So if you click on stroke and you change the corner instead of a sharp milter join corner, you're going to do a round join, and that'll get rid of these sharp edges and kind of make it a little more cartoony. And then I'm just going to do the same thing with students. Like that. And I'm actually gonna group this one up too. I must have taken it out of the right click, so I'm just gonna select all the ones I want to group up, hit Control G to group it up. Same thing with staffers, Control G to group it up. Just makes it easier if you're gonna be making the same adjustments to all the letters. This isn't gonna be the final look. I just want to basically lock it in. That is getting there. Okay. So it's red and it's green because it's apples to apples. This looks kind of Christmassy. And a color scheme like always says something about the game in question. So like if I was to make this pink, it's pink and blue. It's baby colors. It has to do with boys and girls. Okay. Now let's draw the circle in the background because we have to determine what that color will be too. So I just put it behind. You can do that by hitting right clicking, say arrange, send to back. I like that. I'll just go with the analogy. Okay. Now, this circle back here, it doesn't have much of a black stroke applied to it, but it has that gradient. So here's the tricky part. So we're going to click on it. We're going to take off the stroke by hitting the drop-down menu next to the black and doing stroke none. Now we're going to go over here to this the appearance panel. It looks like a sun. If you don't see it or don't have it, you just go up to Window and hit the appearance button, and then it should show up somewhere around here. And then over here, inside the appearance panel, we're going to add a new fill right down here. It's the box with like stuff in it. And we're going to change that fill to a gradient fill. So if you hit the drop down menu right next to the yellow, We're going to just make it summer. We're going to click on it. It should change something like that. Now obviously this isn't what we want in the final thing. But once you've added that, stop. You can go over here to the gradient panel. If you don't see it, it's going to be in Window Gradient up here. Gradient panel. And we're going to edit the gradient. We're going to put this way back over here. We're going to change this to have a 0% opacity. And then we're going to change this to a darker color, like almost a red probably. Like that, I like that. It gives it that little touch of 3D. So you'll also notice that the stroke on the actual letters is a very thin black stroke, and that there's a shadow applied to it. So we're going to do that next. We're going to click on this one, hold down Shift, and select this one as well. I'm going to put it at 0.5 point, 0.5 points. Okay, hit Control C to copy it. Hit Control Shift V to paste a copy of it. So now we have 2. And then we're going to right click on that on the new one and say Arrange, Send to Back. Now obviously it's going to go behind our little sun round thing in the back. So we're going to right click on that one and say Arrange, Send to Back. There we go. Now we have 2 copies of this, the Staffers to Students. The back one we're going to change to black. So I'm going to click on the first one, hold down Shift, click on the bottom one. Make sure you're not clicking on the top one. You're going to want to click on the one that's behind it. And then you're going to go up to the fill color, change it to black. There we go. Control 0 to center it. That looks pretty decent. I'm going to add a shadow to the sun too. Control C, Control Shift V, right click, Arrange, Send to Back. Then move it just slightly off center. Go to the Appearance panel, delete the gradient layer, and then the fill, change to black. Then I'm going to actually move it a little bit more, like that. And I'm going to make it a little transparent. Opacity, turn the opacity down. I like that. Okay. Now we're going to make since that's the logo, I like it. My letters are a little bit thinner than theirs, but this is just an example. You can mess around with it more if you want. Keep in mind though that once you expand text, you won't be able to edit the font or anything anymore. These are just shapes now. So make sure you get the font right before you start messing around with it. Okay. So really quick, we're going to add the red box in the back. I think it's red. Yeah, it's red. So I'm going to get a rounded rectangle. I'm going to start in the corner, just inside the boundary box. And I'm just going to draw out a rectangle. I'm going to try to make it even on all sides. This drives me nuts. There we go. And obviously it's in front of everything, so we're going to click on it, right click, Arrange, Send to Back. There we go. And we're going to take off the stroke color. And that's it. I'm going to group up the logo really quick. So I'm going to draw a selection box over everything and then hold down Shift and deselect the red box. And then with this one, I'm going to group up the logo really quick so I can just have a copy of it because I know I'm going to be using that other places. Now, this red right here is a little bit obnoxious, so I'm going to just double click on this box over here and make the red a little bit darker. I like that better. Okay, and that is the back basic back of a red Stafford to Students, Apples to Apples card.